Okay, now we need lights and camera and the render setup now. So we go back to the main view, and then in the top view we add a sun positioner. So it's a light sun positioner, and what I tend to do now is just double click, otherwise it kind of drags the icon out and it makes it huge. The double click seems to make it face the correct way as well. So just a double click, then a drag to set the distance for the sunlight head. Okay, that automatically sets up your background and environment as well. Okay, we could move that out of the way if we want. Okay, if we were looking at the front of the building, everything's going to be in shadow because the sun's behind us. So we do need to edit the direction here. So click on the sun positioner, modify it. We need to bring it a bit closer to Scotland. So you click the location. We want Europe. And we've got Edinburgh there, and okay, Edinburgh's close enough. Okay, and then the time of the day, let's bring this round a bit so it's the afternoon. If we go round to 1600 hours, that should be fine. Okay, now we need a camera. So add a camera object and a target camera. Unless you want to get really clever with depth of field and focusing and stuff, I would stick with the target one. It's got enough control in it. If you're wanting to get, if you know your way around a DSLR camera, then physical is usable. Okay, so target camera, I'm going to choose the lens length straight away, and then first click is where you stood, and then you target the camera at your object and then let go. Okay, obviously you can see that here the camera's on the ground, it just comes in at level 0. So we want to move this time. If you click the line that joins the target to the camera, you can get both of them at the same time. So we'll bring that up to street level. And now if we look through the camera, so you click the word perspective, cameras, camera 01. Okay, there's a lot of daylight here, a lot of space. We could move the camera closer, so just moving the camera this time. Okay, now don't adjust this too much because it can all get undone in a few seconds. So you're better to go to your render setup first and set the size of the image to something reasonably big. So let's say 2000 pixels by 1000. Okay, close that. Now come back to your camera here and show safe frames. Okay, and that's why I didn't adjust the camera too much, because I knew we were going to lose the top of the chimneys there. So if you hold your middle mouse button, you can pan the camera down a bit. Okay, so we're okay height wise now, and we just want to see how close we can get, because we want to be able to see the materials when we do a test render. We don't want to be too far away. Okay, so that's looking good. Okay, so we've activated the safe frame. So now we're at the stage of assigning some materials. Okay, I think you can change the background here, but it's as I'm not really that keen on this, kind of white out here. Not sure where the background shows up. So viewport background, yeah, so it's using the environment background at the moment. We should be able to just use solid color. It's not going to affect the rendering at all, I don't think. It's just the viewport background. The environment is still set in rendering environment, and it should still be physical sun and sky up here. Okay, so let's just make sure rendering's working before we blunder on. So just hit the render scene button. It's the teapot with a lightning flash. So I just want to make sure we're getting something. So it looks like it's made out of icing sugar at the moment. It looks kind of weird. Okay, but shadows are working okay. I'm happy enough. I'm not going to leave it to render long. One thing that's wise to put on is to force two-sided when you render, especially if your models come from outside of 3D Studio. You better to stick that on just to make sure nothing gets missed. Okay, right. So let's do the biggest material first. Let's deal with the walls of the building. Okay, so the materials editor, we want to get a material from our library. Okay, and I've got one here called Dundee Stone. Okay, just drag that in. Okay, if you want to preview it, you double click the material. Okay, so you can see there is a bit of repetition here. There's a kind of a line here that's kind of showing up again. It's kind of been mirrored, but it's reasonably irregular. Okay, now you can either click the object first. Better to use the select button here. Click the object first and then assign your material, or if it's a big one like this, you can just drag the material straight onto it. Okay, looks kind of weird at the moment because it's needing some mapping coordinates. It's kind of showing it in this kind of bizarre way. Now, I want to use the Uvw Map command a lot, so I've put it onto my toolbar. So you can do that. You just right click in any grey area on the toolbar and you can customize your toolbar. Okay, so if I want to put another command next to Uvw Map there, okay, they're all in alphabetical order. It's to UV. Okay, so let's say, I don't even know what this is, UV Grow Loop, for instance. You just drag that out and it only lets you place it where it is happy for you to place it. So you can't put it in with these workspaces, but I could put it just next to that. Looks like it doesn't even have an icon, that one. That was a good choice. Oh right, because it doesn't have an icon. That's why. So delete button. There we go. Okay, so if I want to put a, there we go, that's a better one. Uvw Map modifier. Just drag that in, and that's the one I've already got. That's clever. This is getting embarrassing. Okay, let's try a different one just to make sure it's working. Another one that doesn't have an icon. Anyway, you get the idea. It's something that you're going to use regularly. You can put it onto your toolbars. Okay, it saves a lot of kind of going up and down lists every 5 seconds. Okay, so I want to Uvw Map that now. So normally you would go to Modify and drop the list down and look for Uvw Map. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to use the button that's on the desktop. Okay, so this is where the guide comes in. So for the Dundee Stone, the mapping is box mapping 2.4 by 2.4 by 2.4. Okay, so it's box, and then you're changing length, width and height. 2.4, 2.4, 2.4. And that's only just by what you feel is right. Nobody's going to say right or wrong. It's not, it's not like that. But the orientation of that isn't quite right. You can see this orange shape here. This is our 2.4 by 2.4. Okay, but it really needs to be lined up with the building. Okay, so back in AutoCAD, we just need to know what angle the building's at. So make sure you're in the world UCS. Okay, and I've already drawn a line along the length of the building. Okay, you list that and you're looking for the angle setting in there. Now that's to 4 decimal places. So if it's coming up with just 55, then you need that extra bit of angle. So you do units command and change the precision of your angles to 4 decimal places. Okay, otherwise the angles might be, they could be half a degree out or very slightly under or over half a degree. So back to 3D Studio. So I've got that written down somewhere, 55.3517. I'm just going to copy that so I can paste it in. Okay, so what we do now is try and rotate this orange device. So to get it to be able to move and rotate, you click the blue tab. It's now under our control. So if I move this, you'll see the pattern move on the building. Okay, but we don't want to move it, we want to rotate it. So it's select and rotate, and we want to type in our angle. You should be able to type it in here, or the better one to do is to press F12. It's now gone and stuck it down there. F12, and we're rotating relative to the screen at the moment, and this is where our angle goes in, Z 55.3517. So we should see that change if I press enter. It's now in line with the building. Okay, and switch off the Uvw map there, and that locks it. It's now safe. Okay, so that's a biggie. Now another big one is the roof. So this is where things get a bit more complicated. Okay, we can't really use the same material throughout here. Well, tell a lie, we could, but I'd kind of like to use this as an example of showing you how you kind of break the roof apart. We'll deal with bits that are facing specific directions. Okay, because if you do have a roof that's kind of canted or whatever, you're going to need to be able to bust it up. Okay, so select the roof, and then we want to hide everything else. So hide unselected. Okay, I'm just going to look at this part of the model initially. Okay, so we've got quite a few areas of roof. Some are facing south, some are facing north, east and west. So that's what we want to do, is kind of break them up into pieces. Okay, but we don't need all of the roof shape, because some of it was modelled as a solid and some of it's lost inside the model, which we're never going to see. Okay, so firstly we could clear away some of the geometry. So do that with Edit Mesh. So go to the face level and select, and I don't need the stuff that's underneath. Don't need the stuff at the ends here, that's hidden by the chimneys. This is underneath as well. So what I'll do, I'll go to a different view so I can rotate the model a bit freer. So let's go to this view and maximize it. Okay. So this kind of gives you a hint as to which way you're looking. You see some of the lines are darker than others. They're kind of objects that are facing away from you. So default shading, we don't want that background again. So solid color. Okay, so we're still in the edit mode of this object. Whoops, that was a triangle I do want to keep. Okay, so I'm just clearing away some of the shapes here that are not going to be needed underneath this little roof on the outside. Let's go back to wireframe so we can see what we've got. Okay, got a little bit here to get rid of. There's a few bits inside here. So just just simplifying this, making it easier for ourselves. We don't need the back of that bit. Just keep clicking and it lets you kind of go through an object. Don't need the back of that bit. There's a few faces here that we actually should be on a walls layer. So what we'll do is just use this opportunity to break these off completely. So this wouldn't be slated here. This would be stone wall. So I've just kind of overlooked that bit when modeling. So I'm going to holding Control. I can pick all of those, and I'm going to detach those. Okay, I'm just going to call them letter X at the moment, and X is going to be added onto the Dundee stone walls. Okay, so that's broken off the bits we don't need at all. Now what we do is, actually we don't need the top of that. Now what we do is break them off depending on which direction they're facing. Okay, so a top view is easier for this. Oops. Activate the viewport first. Right, so I copy the name. Okay, because I'm going to end up with a few of these. So the main roof, what I'll say is the main roof is facing northwest. Okay, so let's say this is 4R roof NW, northwest. Okay, now I'll pick the bits that are facing southeast. Okay, you could try and do it individually, or using the crossing window, hold Control and do careful crossing windows. My crossing window isn't working there. Let's try that again. That's better. Okay, I'm just using the edge of the selection window there to grab the objects. Got one there. So this is facing southwest as well. So detach those. And these are southwest. Okay. Northeast. Okay, hold Control. This is northeast as well. Detach. NE. Okay. Southwest is this bit, and this one, and this. So detach those. These are southwest. So I've ended up with quite a few roof objects now. If we look at the list, I've given one of them the wrong name, haven't I? So let's pick this one. That should be southeast. Okay. So let's pick this one and rename it. Get rid of the zeros. Okay, that's definitely southwest, southeast, northeast. So the remainder, if we just get rid of the layer bit, it's going to make the layer. It'll put it into the list of objects a bit better. Okay, all of them get the same material, so they all get the slate roof. That's looking very dark, but it's okay, I think. It's got this map on it, it's just very dark. Okay, so we can assign that to everything. You can assign to the selection. Okay, and then the mapping, you can see it needing mapping. Okay, let's put the background to solid color again. Okay, we'll just pick one of them initially and UVW map it. Okay, the size for the mapping is 1.2, so it's planar mapping, 1.2 by 1.6. Okay, so it's a fairly big roof, a lot of slates. Okay, we want to rotate that. So you activate the mapping icon, rotate it. It's through there, but we just can't see it. It's underneath the model at the moment. Let's just move it outside so we can see it when we rotate it. Okay, so I want to rotate it, and the angle again should still be on my copy paste here. No, it's not. 55.3517. Okay, the little line on there indicates the top of the JPEG. Now, for this roof, that line should be facing up the roof. That is the top of the JPEG. So we need to rotate it another 180. Okay. If you use the object snaps, I've got object snaps here, and if you right click it, I've got endpoint and pivot. Okay, you can move this and snap it onto the corner of the building. So at least your very first slate is right along the edge of the roof, which looks kind of tidy. Okay, that one is secure now. Lock it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just quickly do this, and then we'll stop because we need to let in other people that are in the other groups. Okay, so we want to map this object now, but we can steal the mapping, we can acquire the mapping from the bit that's already done. Acquire absolute. Okay, modify the map. We want to rotate it by 180 and then move it to this corner, because you can see there's a partial tile there at the moment. So if we move it now and snap it onto that corner, lock the mapping, go to the next object, Uvw Map, acquire, can take it from here, absolute, OK, activate the mapping, we can move it to the corner of this object, and then we want to rotate it by another 90 degrees. So you see it looks very tidy with the way the lines all kind of join into each other up the angles there. And the last one, Uvw Map, acquire, could take it from this one because it's already been done pretty close to us. OK, activate the mapping. We don't really need, well, we do need to move it. Let's move it onto here, rotate 180. Looks really tidy, looks good. Okay, so that's kind of the two biggest objects dealt with, the walls and the slating. And what we'll do is bring back everything on just now. So unhide all, have a wee look, and getting those two on deals with a heck of a lot of the image. So let's just have a quick rendering. It'll look a lot better now because you're killing off a lot of the white icing. So we'll do a quick render. So the scene looks much dimmer now because there's a lot less white kind of kicking around. So it's going to be fairly grainy, so I'm not worrying too much about that. I'm just making sure the objects look reasonably sized.